Hello everyone. It's Pastor Matt from First United Methodist Church of South Bend. So glad that you have joined us for a brief conversation with Kat Redding, who is a member of and a leader in Black Lives Matter, and Ann Crafton, who's a young adult member of First Church. So glad to have them as a part of a conversation today to share with the congregation, with all of you, about what's going on in the community. And just to learn a little bit more about Black Lives Matter. It's an important conversation that I don't think too many of us are engaging in enough, and to ask questions, to learn more, and to understand. So that's why I've asked Kat and Ann to join us today, and I'm really thankful for Kat's presence and willingness to share with us so we can learn more. So I guess I already introduced you both. I said I was going to have you guys do it, but is there anything else you guys want to add to my introduction? And anything else you want to add?
I think you did a fantastic job.
Right to the point.
Say thank
Awesome.
you for having us.
Great. Well, thanks, Kat. And maybe you could just kind of jump in and just share a little bit about how you got into BLM and your role, and just a little bit about what you've been doing, and then we'll go from there.
Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Let me see if is my mic sound okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, I was catching the echo. So I actually started doing some groundwork with Black Lives Matter last year regarding surrounding the death of Eric Logan, and just trying our best to do our due diligence and bring justice to, the scenario of the murder. The police department essentially murdered Eric Logan. So yeah, since then I've been just working around a lot of environmental injustice since then. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So yeah, so right now my work is more so grounded around the environmental oppressions here in South Bend regarding lead. So initially when we got started, we didn't foresee Pete being a presidential candidate. We all seen him come to the forefronts, and it seems like he really had the upper hand in the campaign up until the point where he was supposed to sway the Black vote, and unfortunately, the members of the community just didn't see that we felt significant. He had a significant error here in South Bend with the Black population. One would be housing. We had to house 1,000 houses in 1,000 days. And with that, we saw that there was contractors that actually weren't spraying these houses. And we found that to be very problematic in the, census tracts that the houses were coming down in. And so, yeah. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, you mentioned, certainly, the Mayor Pete's campaign put South Bend in a national spotlight there for a while, and to some degree still is. But you had mentioned, the shooting that happened last year, and with Eric Logan and that situation, and then the lead situation. Are there other things that you are really advocating for or against in the city, like locally?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's important that you know that Black Lives Matter is grounded in their 7 pillars. The 7 pillars are actually housing. We also have trauma-informed care, economics, environmental justice, or injustices, police accountability. That's primary where we are focusing, most of our attention. with the Civilian Review Board, or what have you. We have well, I think it's going to be like an oversight, independent oversight, but initially it started as the Civilian Review Board, and that has actually been passed most recently. We also worked around bringing accountability to the matrix. After many readings of the matrix, we had a lot of roundtable discussions regarding the ineffectiveness of it. We didn't see really any substance of real accountability. We saw that it was very flawed. It was a very flawed metric system of discipline. And so we pushed for sustainability, something that the people could actually feel as though they could hold, you know, the police department essentially accountable. You know, we didn't, the prosecutor found that after the death of Eric Logan, they ruled that that it was, you know, justified. So at this point, you know, we're still pushing for justice for him, but also, you know, primarily just as we hold ourselves, you know, we want to feel as though with our police department that they should be held to the same standards of, you know, being a law-abiding citizen. And we found after the death that that same officer had a month prior had a scandal right there in the building, actually, behind you in your backdrop. You know, he was picking up prostitutes, and he was in the garages with prostitutes and things like that. So we found that, you know, with if you could have an officer that could have behaviors like that, and then, you know, we feel like it was a compound, right? If he would have been disciplined after that happened, right, after the whole situation, then it's a possibility that he might have not even been on the beat to murder Eric Logan. So yeah, but I like to touch base with you about the 7 pillars that I was mentioning, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Okay, great. So housing, as I said, is one of our primary 7 pillars. Racism and legal discriminations have been deprived to the Black and Brown community, and equitable housing continues to be an issue. So right now we're really targeting budgets. It's budget season, trying to be sure that we can acquiesce housing for you know, people that live below the poverty line. So that's a huge one for us. Trauma-informed care. The organization supports trauma-informed community practices and policies. We will be a sanctuary for healing and development for everyone, regardless of race, gender, or sexuality, and orientation. So we feel that our duty is to make sure that the Black, brown, and oppressed has a voice, and that their voices can be uplifted. So what we do, we provide a platform for people that's doing the work here in South Bend that has been underutilized, or just, you know, just maybe helping them with securing better structures for their organization. Because we know that ultimately that everyone is not at the same place. And so we use our abilities to incorporate them and give them the necessary essential tools to flourish as an organization. So I spoke a little bit about the environmental injustices here in South Bend. And so we feel like poor air quality with the demolition of so many houses here in South Bend, holding those contractors, making sure that the city is actually putting inside of the contracts that they must spray as they're demolishing homes, because that, that debris can actually travel up to a whole mile without it being sprayed. And so we found that to be problematic for the population that the demolitions were happening in. And so we just feel that it's housing and ground contaminations are a significant source of injustices in the neighborhoods that have the serious impacts on community members' health. We seek fair treatment of our environment and the right of health for everyone living in the community. And I think that when Matt, I don't know if you had a chance to read the Viewpoint piece that I most recently published, but it was speaking on the lines of turning our attention to the environment when we think of violence in our communities. When we think of these children that are being poisoned, and this is a generational, it's a pandemic. I'm gonna call it what it is. It's a pandemic that's been going on since the 1970s, right? And the population that is most affected disproportionately are Black and Brown. So we know that these children at some point or another, they will be adults. And how can we eliminate the fact that these adults, some of these adults that's participating in violent crimes or shootings have not been a product of their environment, right? If we turn our attentions to the prisons and the incarcerated population, right? If we went in and did bone grafts on this population, would they find that these people also have been exposed to the same poisoning of lead? And so I think it's important, when we think of our social environment, that we start to dig into the root cause of things. We look at the surface and we say, people shouldn't, be behaving this way, but we don't understand the systematic oppression of how we got here, right? And so what we do, our aim is to make transparent of the structural supremacies that has continued to plague us, right? So that be by lead or structural, white supremacy. So I touched base a little bit about education. Currently, we have what is called the Fannie Lou Hamer Youth Foundation. It's actually being accredited by the high schools. So children can actually essentially come through the Fannie Lou Hamer, obtain their high school credits, and also be, as well, they're being trained as organizers at the ground level. They are being taught policies, reviewing policies. We're just making sure that they get that enrichment that they're been missing for so long. We're making sure that African studies is at the forefront, because we know that the school systems kind of divvy out historical curriculum, right? They pick and choose what it is that the curriculum fits, they make the curriculum fit. So we make sure that we go above and beyond to connect those dots we want to know more than just about Martin Luther King. We know that the civil rights was a big movement, but we just learn about those one or two people from history, right? So what we do is dig a little deeper and provide that enrichment for the youth of the Fannie Lou Hamer Fellowship. And also, you know, that's a continual education. So we're also making sure that we're doing college applications and just as making sure that the kids actually have the tools that they need for success, right? Um, So also another big thing that we try to focus on is the school to prison pipeline, and we fight for justice in educational curriculum, class management, and discipline strategies. We will continue to nurture and grow and advance through internship enrichment opportunities, was just a bit of what we're just embarking on right now through the educational process. And then the biggest one is police accountability. And we feel like that is really a huge one right now because we feel, I mean, everyone should feel at this point the climate of the police brutality. You know, we see Eric Logan here in South Bend. We see George Floyd. We've seen in Indianapolis where we had Mr. Reeves killed just due to the trauma, right? Just thinking about the murder in Indianapolis, this young man was actually a part of the armed forces at one point, but as you know, that doesn't mitigate you from being murdered from the police. If you, I mean, we feel, the people feel our skin is actually being looked at as a weapon. So when we know that that this trauma is embedded in the life of every Black and brown man, that we know that they may run, they may, try to get away, but it's not to say that they're guilty of anything, but they're actually afraid of their lives being taken or stolen, right? 1 second, please. Give me just 1 second. Sorry about that.
You're fine. It's all right, Kat.
So yeah, I mean, we look around the world and we see the news and we see the lives of the stolen, their lives have been stolen away from them, their families and things like that. So we feel like if it be at all possible that everyone in the United States should be looking forward to defunding their police, and what that is, and I know that it's been, this defunding the police has been turned into, some abolishing, like we haven't stated that. We're just saying, I mean, we know what defunding means, because if you look at the school systems, they've been defunding the school systems here in South Bend, public schools for years now. So so the narrative was to be flipped and to say, let's abolish the police versus defunding, because they didn't want to look at the root of it, right? What does that mean? Okay, that means reallocating funds into the neighborhoods of the people that have been most victimized by the police, by being over police or stopped and frisked or what have you, right? So if we could actually use this money in the police budget, to bring resources to the community like mental health, real rehabilitation centers, we look at the crack epidemic and we see that's never been addressed, that's never been addressed. Then you look at, the opioid addictions, and that in itself has already, been taken care of. They've mended, initiatives to make sure that the people, that's most, disproportionately affected by opioids. You have the Caucasian people, that's really where we see the opioid addictions. So now that has been addressed, when will we be able to address the sicknesses in our communities? So yeah, we're continuing to fight daily. There's many things that people can do to get active. because it takes more than just one voice, right? It takes more than just one organization. It takes all of us as a community. If you see something, say something, you know, and that goes for accountability for community members and police. You know, we have to continue to hold ourselves at a higher standard as to where we see ourselves, you know, 5 years from now. Will we still be here discussing the social injustices of America, or are we going to push together to further, you know, the fight, you know, against injustice? It's not a black or white thing; it's a right or wrong thing, and it all boils down to what it is that you stand for. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really, really helpful and really, really informative. Just thank you so much for that.
Yeah, sure.
I just was wondering, so thinking about South Bend's faith community, we were just wondering what kind of support you wished that you saw in the South Bend faith community, and how we as a predominantly white church and how other predominantly white churches can go about supporting Black Lives Matter in meaningful ways beyond just very surface level things like putting Black Lives Matter on our signs.
Yeah. I mean, beyond just, you know, help tag the city, you know. I was just in Portland, and Portland had an array of signs, you know, like we can start by tagging the city. We can write, you know, like write the mayor, you know, write Congress, just get into the loop of what's going on at your city council meetings and things like that. Reading is important. You know what I mean? We see so much, you know, everything's being defined in words now. So, you know, like if we're actually taking the time to read new legislations, new bills, new policies, and just like I said, if you see something, say something. It's not okay to be silent anymore. You know, that to me is doing more damage than, you know, a person that could, you know, I think it's important to put out here, I'm going to say this, that a lot of people think that if they're being revolutionary, that they have to be on the front lines and, you know, they have to carry their, you know, picks and, you know, like, it's not that, you know, it's about making phone calls, you know, supporting with money, you know, we have to have money to continue on, to press on, you know, donations is always accepted, you know what I mean? We you know, are always trying to fundraise and network, host events, you know, if you could loan out a building, if you have that, you know, it's whatever that really that you feel that is near and dear to you that you can do, you know, like it's not about us saying, well, hey, you do this, you do this, you do this, you know, it's about all of us, you know, echoing, you know, the cries of the streets. I mean, you see the news, you know, they tell you verbatim, you know, what it is that we're pushing for, you know, if you can at any point, you know, intervene or interject or, you know, make a phone call to just be a help, you know, we're really looking forward to just more meeting with youth. I mean, if you have, you know, youth in your church, which I'm sure you do, you know, we'd love to, you know, maybe talk with them, you know, because I think that it's a scary world right now. And I can imagine being a kid growing up in these times, and you see just so much hatred, and you see like, you know, Black Lives Matter fighting, and you don't know what all this is, and, you know, you're really trying to put things in proper perspective. You know, if that's something we can help with, you know, definitely, you know, I think it begins with our kids, because they're going to inherit this world, and if we can help them to just create this perspective of what's right, what's good, you know, then absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much negativity and hatred. There's just so much out in the world today that I mean, that's what the news always picks up, right? Always the bad stories, if you will. And but I'm just wondering, what signs of hope are you seeing right here in South Bend? What's giving you hope? What change are you seeing already?
Yeah.
Yeah, just what's that maybe positive message for us? Like, what hope do you see?
Yeah, definitely. So what I see is a lot of love, what I see is a community that's standing together. And we're not looking to each other's color. We're looking at each other's character. So what I see is solidarity. I see people that seen and have been victimized for so long. And I see another group of people coming into them and making sure that, that they know that, they're loved, that they know that everybody that's Black or brown is not bad. So that's the most powerful thing that I see happen. I see a community mending itself and actually starting dialogues with people that they normally wouldn't. So yeah, that's a blessing. But on a political level, you see just accountability starting to happen. Though it's a painful process, we're getting everybody on board, and it takes a lot of work, but we do see things starting to formulate with the Civilian Review Board and the matrix being passed, and just a new reform, I think, is underway, and we're optimistic about it. And I just, I just like to see our community heal itself, if at all. Actually, right, there's a street pole right there in your background, right? The only street pole right there on the bridge, right? There was a man that just tried to jump off that bridge right there at that street pole last summer. So we know for a fact that mental health issues are plaguing actually our nation. Armed Force guy just got killed by the police due to stupidity, but mental health resources. It was the police stupidity that could be de-escalated, right? If we get social workers instead of police to respond to, calls like people jumping off bridges, I think that we would see a turnaround with, violent crimes and murders and things like that. And that would cut the police some slack, where they're feeling overworked and, things like that. That would, right, it would, open up ways for the police to be doing real, crime fighting work and actually having the professionals to handle people that, needs professional help, right? So that's what we look forward to, mental health being adjusted here, real solutions of mental health resources, of healing circles, things of that nature. And that's something that you could, facilitate, Pastor Matt, at your building. Healing circles are important. Because there's so many people that have been survivors of violent crimes, right? And so who do they have to talk to? So those are things that, that we can all be optimistic and look forward to, hopefully seeing some real mental health resources and rehabilitation. Yeah.
Matt, were you going to? Well, I just wanted to, again, just thank you so much for sharing all of that. Matt, did you have any more questions that you wanted to ask?
I don't think did you have anything else, Anne, that you wanted to ask? And then
No, I even had questions written down that Kat answered before I could even ask them. So
Kat was on
so
top
efficient.
of it today. That's right.
Oh, great. Thank you. I started off kind of shaky, but I was like, okay, I'm here. But I just want to thank you, Pastor Matt, for allowing me to come on and speak with you, and actually just, keeping an open mind and an open heart. And we thank you for the signs, because you're actually one of the first people we saw with that Black Lives Matter sign up. And you can't even understand how that filled our heart with joy. So we thank you.
Wow, awesome. Well, no, thank you so much, Kat. I appreciate you sharing that. And I just, I just appreciate you so much willing to share with us. And, like I told you before that, I've tried to preach on some of this, from the pulpit, or we're worshiping in the park, so not exactly a pulpit, but preach to the congregation about it, and just for them to be aware of what's happening in the nation as well as here in South Bend, and it's so important. And so many people have asked, like, what, how can I learn more? What can I do? And which, really kind of caused me to reach out to you to have just a conversation. And really, I think to start a conversation, I guess that's really my hope for today. Is that we can get this video out to the congregation and have them, maybe ask more questions and find ways that we can to learn and grow and love our neighbor more, And I think that's the whole point, is to love our neighbor, right? I mean, that's what Jesus said, love your neighbor, and that's what we're trying to do by at least starting a conversation today. So, Ann, thank you for being on. I know Ann's been at some BLM gatherings in the past, some rallies in the past. So glad to have Ann on the call today. And Kat, thank you so much for sharing.
Pastor Matt, also too, if, at all anybody wants to be mobilized or just know what's going on within the network, they can actually send an email to blacklivesmatter.southbend@gmail.com, and that will give you access to upcoming events or campaigns that we might be having for fundraising. Also Facebook, like us on Facebook, and Instagram as well.
You were on top of it. I was going to ask about next steps, and you just got right into it, Kat.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you were great. I appreciate that. So there's the next steps. But for anyone watching today, I just I really encourage you to, as Kat said, you read and listen and see where there are ways that we can jump in. And again, I'm always framing it around, how do we love neighbor? And I think that's what this whole conversation is about. Again, how do we love neighbor? So
that's right.
So thanks for watching, and Kat, and thank you again so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Ann.